I wanted to talk about the chaos going on at the minute at the US border. Of course, this isn't necessarily anything new, but it's particularly bad at the minute to the point where it's getting to what you can describe as a crisis. So obviously things at the border have been kind of hotting up, and lots of migrant caravans have been coming to the border, more and more so since Joe Biden has become president. And you may remember, of course, Kamala dragging her feet when asked about visiting the border wall itself, and eventually she did buckle and kind of do a kind of half-hearted photo op there, but didn't really do a lot or didn't really say much about how she's going to fix the situation. And of course, let's not forget that Biden stopped the construction of Trump's beautiful wall at the border, which we'll get onto in a second. But supposedly Fox News went down to the border yesterday and filmed some footage about the chaos going on.
I mean, just look at it.
I mean, we're going to have a look at a video of it in a second. Right. And so Bill Malugin, Fox journalist, says, our drone is back over the international bridge in Del Rio, Texas. Per source, the number of migrants waiting to be processed has now swelled to approximately 8,200. It was 4,000 yesterday AM, double in one day. BP overwhelmed, and I'm told situation is out of control. So supposedly, most of the people who are at the border are Haitian, because Biden actually said...
Haiti is a S-hole country, as Trump called them.
Well, I don't think he's wrong.
No.
It's not a nice place to live, so I don't blame him for wanting to move, but in this extent...
Also, it's on the island of Hispaniola. Like, you have to go across the waters to get to Mexico to even get to the US border. And there are multiple safe countries that are not the S-hole that Haiti is in between.
Absolutely. So why has this all started? Well, Biden announced that he's cancelling all deportation flights back to Haiti, and magically, as if there's no cause and effect, all these Haitians just appeared at the border.
You're telling us if we go to America, we won't get deported. Fantastic. Thank you, Biden.
And yeah, this is entirely created by Joe Biden. It's not unreasonable to say that. It was his decision to do this, and here they are. So
but it's not
obviously
the
these
are
Haitian as well. I mean, if you look at any of the footage, any of the images, they don't look Mexican, they don't look Latin American, they are Haitian. And let's remember, of course, that Haiti was a country that is mainly founded by freed slaves that used to live in America. They set up their own country.
I thought they were under the French.
It may well be, but nevertheless, there's lots of freed slaves there, and you'd think, okay, well, why would the descendants of freed slaves want to go to a country which the American left describes as institutionally racist? You'd think they might be a bit sensitive about that, but clearly they don't see it that way. So I have a question to the left, if any of them are actually watching, probably not. But so the migrants disagree with you about this? Is America institutionally racist? All these people don't seem to be thinking so. Or are they just stupid? Are they naive?
At least they don't have to literally eat mud.
Yeah.
I mean, if anyone's wondering what I'm referencing there, Google mud cookies Haiti and have a look at that.
Ugh.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's go on to the video. So it's more or less like a moving town because there's 8,000 people. And it's all just chicken wire. It's basically a slum beneath the bridge there, isn't it? And all they've got is chicken wire and a handful of people. So if they actually wanted to, storm across...
Nothing's stopping them.
Yeah, not really. I mean, they're clearly undermanned, aren't they? And just that tiny little wire fence isn't really going to do very much, is it? So the New York Post has some stats on this. So apparently in August, there was about 208,000 encounters, which was actually a slight drop from July, where there was 212,000, but still amounts to a 317% increase from August 2020, when Trump was president, when there were only a mere 50,000 apprehensions, and a 233% jump from August 2019, which recorded 62,000. So that's an exponential increase, isn't it? That's not small. That's well over double or triple the amount that are actually there.
I see the chat's calling it, Hooverville from the Depression era. This is Bidenville. Just a slum.
It's a good little nickname for it.
Yeah.
So there's not only has Biden created this mess, but he's also refused to fix it. So if we look at the statement here from the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott. He says here, 6 hours after the US Customs and Border Protection requested help from Texas to close ports of entry and secure the border, the Biden administration has now flip-flopped to a different strategy that abandons border security and instead makes it easier for people to cross illegally and for cartels to exploit the border. The Biden administration is in complete disarray and is handling the border crisis as badly as the evacuation of Afghanistan. I have directed the Texas Department of Public Safety and the Texas National Guard to maintain their presence at and around ports of entry to deter crossings. And I am going to extend many compliments to Greg Abbott because he seems to be dealing with this basically single-handedly, and he's doing quite a good job. And we're going to have a look at what he's actually doing to try and fix this in the absence of any real presidential leadership here.
He's also right to compare it to Afghanistan.
Yeah, definitely.
The same border crisis was made in the Afghan airport. All you had to do was have it controlled and strictly who's coming in, who's not coming in, and this evaporates. Never used to have this on, say, the border with Spain in Gibraltar, for example.
Absolutely, yeah. So Abbott is now closing points of entry into Texas because he was fearing that it was going to become overrun with illegal immigrants. And he states, the sheer negligence of the Biden administration to do their job and secure the border is appalling. I've directed the Department of Public Safety and the Texas National Guard to surge personnel and vehicles to shut down 6 points of entry along the southern border to stop these caravans from overrunning the state. So he's actually having to just close the border, have a hard border, no one can come across because they're risking being overwhelmed. So this is the situation they're in is clearly critical. He says the border crisis is so dire that the US Customs and Border Protection is requesting our help as their agents are overwhelmed by the chaos. Unlike President Biden, the state of Texas remains committed to securing our border and protecting Americans. So yeah, well done, Texans, for keeping America safe, I suppose, because all of these people, that, as Trump said, they're probably not going to be sending their best, are they? If they're willing to break into America illegally, they're not going to respect your other laws as well.
If they literally start their relationship off with the United States as one of being a criminal, how do you think this is going to continue? Yeah,
and it's not something that should ever continue. This is appalling, and the level of incompetence from Biden is astounding, really. I mean, it's not surprising, but even so...
Dementia man is dementia man.
But anyway, Greg Abbott goes on to say, today Texas agreed to a contract with companies to oversee construction of the border wall once again. So Greg Abbott is single-handedly building the wall again that Trump was building until Biden cancelled it. And he says, they will quickly work to begin building the wall. Tomorrow I sign a law that increases border security funding to $3 billion. We're trying to fix Biden's failure. So...
Good man.
Yeah.
I mean, it literally, it looks like the people on the borders of the empire or something, essentially holding back the oncoming storm. Like the Texans and their governor being the guy who's basically keeping back loads and loads of people. You have no idea where they're from. You have no idea what their intentions are. You have no idea if you can get rid of them. And they're the ones keeping the wall there, or at least trying to. And yet you have the guys in the Capitol in Washington just being like, just let them come. Just let them come. We won't even deport them.
I know. It's absurd that there's even a debate, really. Surely, if you want people to come into your country at all, if you're left or right wing, you want them to go through legal channels so you know who they are. Because, of course...
Unless you're an anarchist.
Well, yeah.
But apparently the anarchist position is one that the Democrats subscribe to these days.
I mean, I think Democrats seem to forget that the drug cartels in Mexico are no joke, and having people like that in your country is the last thing you want.
I mean, if you want to be... if you're a part of ISIS, for example, blowing up somewhere in Iraq isn't as good as blowing up somewhere in America. So they'll, no doubt, be trying to get through that wall as well. I mean, if you can get from Haiti to there, there's nothing going to be stopping you from getting from the Middle East to Mexico.
Of course, there is the fact that the people from Haiti, it's not particularly a nice country. They're not going to be bringing some of the best values with them either. So even if they are not terrorists and just normal people,
there's still also cultural problems all around.
Yes, exactly. So there's also Texan landowners having to rise up as well and sort things out for themselves. So apparently more than 120 landowners who live near the US-Mexico border have agreed to let the state of Texas put up a temporary fence on their border on their property. So they're actually having physical borders put up on their own private property just to keep them out. That's the extent to which... Yeah.
I mean, literally doing their part. I mean, fair enough.
Well, you've got to respect them, but I think there's also a certain amount of self-interest there because there was lots of crime, supposedly, that was there. But of course, they are doing a service to everyone else as well. So they say, as of Wednesday, 123 people, most of whom live in the Valverde County, have consented to allow an 8-foot-tall barbed wire metal fence to be erected at the edge of their property, according to a senior advisor to Governor Greg Abbott. 82 of the 123 people identified have signed an agreement with the state's military department, which is overseeing the process. So it's coming to the point where private citizens have to work with local government to prevent this.
Because the federal government's just left.
Yeah, I mean, there's no leadership here. They're not trying to fix the problem. In fact, they're pretty much denying it even exists and sticking their head in the sand. So getting the go-ahead from landowners will immediately allow the state to begin securing what is a vulnerable spot on its 1,250-mile shared border with Mexico. The remote region of south-central Texas, known by federal border authorities as the Del Rio region, has the third highest total of illegal immigration nationwide, with 144,500 encounters of illegal immigrants between February and July, which is a massive number. It's
huge.
I know. It's difficult to get your head around how many people that is, and that's just in one area of Texas. So I think that kind of brings home the scale of the problem a little bit, if the video wasn't already enough. So, of course, the decision to get landowners' permission was driven by the residents themselves as well, and the administration, as in the governor's administration.
Not Biden's.
Yes, just help them do so, which is exactly what local government should be doing, helping people do things which are fixing their own problems.
Right. But this is a federal problem. The federal government.
Oh, yeah, well...
But
in the absence of that help, I don't blame the people for having to do it themselves. So Ted Cruz also went down to the border. So let's see what he had to say about the whole thing.
I'm here in Del Rio, Texas, September 16th. I'm underneath the bridge. Behind me are 10,503 people. This is a crisis that is unfolding. It's a man-made crisis. Just over a week ago, there were fewer than 1,000 people here under the bridge, averaging between 700 and 1,000. Then, on September 8th, the Biden administration made a decision to cancel deportation flights back to Haiti. The vast majority of these illegal immigrants crossing in Del Rio are from Haiti. When they made that decision 8 days ago, the 700 to 1,000 people who were here discovered they could stay. They pulled out their cell phones. They called their friends. They called their family. And 8 days later, 700 people became 10,503. This is a disaster, and it is a man-made disaster. It is the result of political decisions, and Joe Biden could end this tomorrow by simply following the law and reinstating deportation flights back.
Ted Cruz is, of course, spot on there.
100% correct.
Yes.
Entirely man-made, and that man is Biden.
Sorry about the audio and video quality, but it was pulled from Twitter. He only posted it there. But the fact that you could hardly even hear him over the crowd kind of indicates just the sheer amount of people there, that he was talking right next to the camera. They were just in the background and you could hardly even hear him. But Ted Cruz is also right that it's gone up to 10,000 now. It was only 8,000 yesterday at about midday. And by yesterday evening, when Ted Cruz filmed that, it's already at 10,000. So who knows what it's at the minute. I think there was an article up by ABC which confirmed this. I think this went up about 4 a.m. UK time. So this was early in the morning for us. But it backs up Cruz's account that about 10,000 people are there. So it's only going to balloon further. And of course, he's very much right to be saying it is all Biden's fault. So supposedly, ABC says the CBP apprehended just over 208,000 people at the southern border in August, which is down from about 4,000 from July, according to federal data. And apparently, the CBP made just 50,000 apprehensions at the southern border in August 2020 when Trump was in office. So even ABC is making comparisons to Trump and how much things were better then. And that's just how you know how bad it's really getting.
Wish we could turn back time to the good old days. I mean, literally. I mean, every single day it's turning into this, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It's just a new crisis. Oh, how did that happen? Biden did a thing, entirely bureaucratic, entirely man-made, and now we have a man-made problem yet again. And he could fix it like that.
Exactly.
I mean, that was the best point made by Ted Cruz in that video, I think. Literally all it has to do is sign a bit of paper and say, yeah, I'll send it back to Haiti. That's
and then they'd all disappear.
Yeah, the entire problem would evaporate overnight. And because you won't do that, well, then they're there, aren't they? So, yeah, it's absolutely correct and be blamed on him. I wonder what the position of the Mexican government is on all this, because I imagine they have the same thing that we have with the French, which is the French don't want them, so they keep sending them over to Britain and refuse to take them back. I imagine the Mexican government's doing the same thing.
I'm sure they probably view it as America has more money than us to get rid of them, therefore leave it to be America's problem, right?
Yeah, but also gringos. You know. I mean, I don't blame them. You know, if you were the Mexican president, that's what you'd do. You'd also be trying to just hock them off to the Americans. Which, yeah, it's up to the American president to fix that. He's the one with the power in that relationship, and if he won't, his fault.
Yeah.
That's just on a general sense, but on the specific sense, just sign a bit of paper. Sign a bit of paper. Send them back to Haiti.
This is undeniably something that Biden has created, and it is a horrible failure on his part.
If you enjoyed that segment from the podcast The Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to the full premium content we have on the site.
Yeah, we've got some really good stuff. Like podcasts, we can't really put up on YouTube or other public domains because we're dealing with sensitive subjects and we don't want to be misconstrued in what we're saying here. The most recent one I've done is the Progressing to Destruction podcast, which is talking about the actual impact of immigration on the United Kingdom. There are lots of progressive arguments on how the ethnic diversity of the restaurants that you're enjoying has nothing but positive results for the United Kingdom, and that's not true, and we can actually see some of the consequences of this. And so I go through that in detail. We also have our regular series, such as the Epochs of the Lotus Eaters, where we talk about history, myself and Bodade. With this particular one I really enjoyed because it's talking about the Battle of Tunis and why leadership matters, because this was in the First Punic War, where Carthage is losing horrifically to the Romans, and they can't understand why, because there's nothing wrong with their navy, there's nothing wrong with their army. Turns out it was all about the leadership, and all it took was one Spartan general to come and turn the entire thing around, and that was a fantastic episode. I really enjoyed doing that. And we also have the Contemplation series that Josh and Hugo do. This is really interesting, where they just take an interesting subject and go through it in meticulous detail. This particular episode is the science of conformity, and you may well have seen lots of people still wearing their masks in the UK and elsewhere, even though you don't have to. And this goes into why psychology shows that people happen to do this kind of thing. We also have lots of premium articles, again, dealing with subjects that often are not something that you can adequately have a conversation with a bad faith actor. This particular one is free speech and the trope of gay parenthood, which on the, immediately you think, okay, this is going to be politically incorrect in some way, but it's not really. It's actually a very delicate article expressing concern that this is yet another subject where the results aren't in, we don't know what the consequences of this are, and yet we're still not allowed to question the premise. And it's because of the current political environment that we're in. Also, there are lots of other just very interesting and informative articles, such as one by Hugo about how overpopulation isn't real. It's not a real thing. And yet we're constantly told that it is. But the Earth is enormous. And it turns out it can hold billions more humans than we actually have. So, interesting that. And we also have loads of very interesting interviews with people who you may not have heard of, such as Hatton Tash, the lady who was attacked, a Christian lady who was attacked at Speaker's Corner for questioning Islamism. She was stabbed in the head. In very interesting interview with her and various others. You should come to our live events. There's one on the 24th of September and one on the 25th of September. The 25th of September one's probably almost sold out, but there might be a few tickets left. But there are still some for the Friday, where we have special guest Andrew Lawrence, the world's most cancelled comedian, probably, at this point. And
certainly in Britain.
Goodest boy didn't do nothing as well. Very much. I'm a big fan of Andrew Lawrence anyway, so I'm really glad that he's going to be our special guest on that day. But we're also going to be having other things. Count Dankula is going to be there, Mark Meakin, which I pronounced correctly this time, and he'll be doing a comedy set. And you're doing a special secret presentation, aren't you?
My secret speech. I don't want to leak it yet because the surprise is part of the speech. So,
right. Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be about immigration policy. So.
Right, okay. And I'll be doing a secret presentation as well, which again I don't want to spoil because it ruins the fun of it, doesn't it? But yeah, so these will be somewhere in South London, secret venue, because you know how leftist activists are. Insufferable. But we will email you the details of where the venue is after you've signed up, obviously, because that way we don't have to make it public, and a bunch of people who don't want to come and just want to stop us from having a live event can't come and shut it down. So you can go to lotus.com and find that, and we will see you there.